the Payments Leaders Show. We just had a quick interlude there because there was a power cut. That's life, and the show is live. There we go. There's living proof that this isn't slick and the show is live. We got to a really fascinating point where we were talking about the opportunities, particularly gender opportunities, but as well. And Tony was talking about particularly Mandy Lamb and other very collaborative women, as well as who bring the sense to the Payments Association community at large.
And there's Kelly Devine, of course, who's leading MasterCard across UK and Ireland. There's Andrea Dunlop, who's running Access Payments. There's Marion King, who runs our advisory board. Whole range of talented women who are naturally rising to the top in our industry, but partly because they're more naturally suited to being a collaborative businessman.
Yeah. I think you asked me a really fascinating question the other day. I put a blog post out, Tony, and you said to me, it's very nice what you said about me, about hopefully having an intuitive and empathetic approach to people who I meet. So thank you. That was and you said to me, is that a learnable skill? And just so for everybody in the audience there, because not everybody's a woman, or everybody's, and again, I always want to give universals to people, if that's okay, is just my 2 penny worth on that is I think all cognitively and emotionally complex tasks are learnable. Okay. I've done a lot of research on this over the last 40 years. You wouldn't believe it. I'm in my 5th decade here now, Tony. You wouldn't believe it, would you? But it's down to desire. It's down to, do you actually want to connect more with that? And then, because in this community as well, good mentorship, there's a whole load of people who I think lead with a yes, and they lead with a, can I help you? And actually, there's so many people, if it's something you're not naturally good at, then there's so many people who you can learn and pick a tip up from, even at one of your events. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think it's really important.
That's good, and part of it is about practice, because corporate life, certainly American corporate life, is all about kill or be killed, highly competitive, ruthlessness, all about hard work, and I think that's very much yesterday's business model. It certainly doesn't suit this world. It certainly doesn't suit me. It doesn't suit our community. There are some companies that don't join. There's 1 or 2 companies that have always decided they don't want to be in the community. It's quite interesting. One of them, big international player. I can't mention their name, but they've kind of gone their own way, and my way or the highway, and you can't get through to these people. You can't get through to them, and because what you're coming from is a different value system. And now they're in real trouble through misfortune, I think, and serendipity and other things, and nobody wants to help. There's nobody there. There's nobody there on the cold, dark 4 a.m. in the morning, when you're worried about the livelihood of your 450 staff and the future of your own livelihood. You ask yourself, where can I turn? And if you've not been collaborative and open through your journey, and you can't turn anywhere, it's a very lonely place.
Do you know what, Tony? I think it's like a career, though. The truth is, the best people I know, I'll give you an example. One of my business partners, Rob, I always say to him, he's been networking and adding value to people for decades. Okay? Yeah. Decades and decades. And I said to him one day, why do you do that, Rob? And he said, I said, why do you give so much to so many people? And he said, it's the most selfish thing you can do, Adrian. I said, selfish? Surely it's selfless. He's like, no. He said, because it always comes back. Yeah, I've been helping people for 20, 30 years now. Yeah. And he said, whenever I need anything, I'm pretty independent, but I'll pick the phone up to somebody. But at the same time, it just comes back much more than you've ever given. And it's sort of, but I do think that starts, and I'd love to hear your view, and that does start with a positive intention. If you start with I'm only out for myself here, people see through that. Whereas
they really do. They really do. You've got to be prepared. And this is where the phrase that's sometimes misunderstood, which is what goes around comes around. What people interpret that as being is what I reap I sow. What I push out I get back. Yeah. That's not the case. You push out, and then somehow it comes back, but in a way that you hadn't expected. Certainly, normally not from the person that you've helped. I mean, the people that you help as a coach, the lad I'm helping on Thursday with his advice, his career, I'm I've got no idea I've got no idea why I'm helping him. I'm going to help him, and then hopefully, and what will happen is then a week next Tuesday, somebody will say, Tony, I've just got this person I think you should meet because I think they'll like being a part of your group, and in other words, I'll be introduced to somebody, and that's the. But I think you have to have the right intention. You're right. And it has to be cognizant of the longer term nature of this. You know, you can't, this is not a one and done. You can't just quickly be collaborative for 6 months. It's not a project, it's a lifestyle. Collaboration is not a project, it's a lifestyle.
I think I've just got my absolute stellar quote from this conversation that this is actually that it's a lifestyle. That is, it's not a project, it's a lifestyle. Because too many people, it's fascinating. If I could just share just small pivot with you here is when I help people, one of the biggest things they do when they're looking for a new job is they go, it feels a bit icky just reaching out to somebody. I haven't spoken to him for 12 years. How'd you get over that? And I said, well, actually, you don't. It is icky because you haven't looked after the relation. Of course it is. But if, the best time to plant a tree, was 100 years ago, the best time the next best time is right here, right now. So, but I think that intention is so important. So, no, thank you for sharing that. And I've observed you always looking for multiple wins for people.
Can I also share another insight, which is to do with help? I was chatting to somebody who was saying I can't ask help from they're also going through a career crisis, and I said, there's you not asking for help is selfish. Comes back to your colleague. If you ask for help, you're giving people an opportunity to contribute to your life.
Absolutely.
And who doesn't want to contribute? This is the difference between us and animals. We want to give back. We want to make a difference, especially if we get to, I know that we're a cost of living crisis and times are hard for us, but in reality, humanity is in a pretty darn good place in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're really right up there in self-actualization for many, many of us. And so, and the way in which we're self-actualized, the same way in which we're fulfilled, is by giving a sense of contributing to other people, helping people. And so giving people an opportunity to help by asking them, it's kind of quite a cool thing to do. And they don't mind. And actually, if they can't afford the time or the effort, they'll say, or they'll find somebody who can help you. And I'm always amazed. People don't ask for help, and they really should. Ironically, it's more often than not it's women who don't know how to ask for help. Men are normally quite good. You pick up the phone and say, you know what? I need some help with this. Are you okay? Have you got a minute? Yeah, I've got a minute. Fine, I'll help you out. Can I introduce you to somebody? Yeah. Can I share something with you? Can I take you on for 3 months? I mean, I've got a colleague who's just said, look, this is all changed. Can you help out here? Yeah, sure. But we help each other. And I think the more we can learn to ask for help, it's a cool thing to do.
Well, one of my friends, his dad he was in the payments industry, very senior in the payments industry, and he had what he called his go to bed moment. Okay. And he said, if I've helped people today, it's now mine adopted as well.
Yeah.
Because I want to positively impact 20,000 careers. And but he always used to say, if I've helped somebody today, I can go to sleep. So actually, yeah. But if I've been an XYZ today, there's a lot of people out there do pretty nasty things. And I always say to them, how does that head hit the pillow at night? Because you're on your own. Yep. And you're on your own with your own thoughts. So I think it's a wonderful way of looking at it. And actually, the truth is, it's biochemically proved. If you help other people, your endorphins are going to get better. All of these it's actually going to help your health. Yeah, so, no, I'm with you completely on this. And I think it's fascinating how people do that. So as you show up, Tony, as I say, I've observed that you show up fully as yourself, shirts and all, every time, which I love. And you know what you're good at and you know what your passion is. Who has been influential in you being able to show up as an authentic leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't quite know, to be honest with you. I think it's hard to spot one individual. I've had I've had a few trusty and very loyal supporters of mine, and
Right.
I will give them a shout out, because it's Professor Dan Horn, who could see that there was something in me when we founded this together. We founded the current company 20 years ago. 8 years ago, he got Parkinson's, poor chap, in the US, and you know, but he's a fighter and he's sticking with it, and he's a professor of university college in Providence College in Rhode Island in the States, and he's always stuck with me, and he's believed in me, and he's been absolutely making sure that I'm true to myself. So that's one
Nice.
guide.
Nice.
The other two loyal advisors are David Hunter and Robert Cornish, who have inspired me and informed me and guided me and criticized me at the right time. Uh, I think they've been helpful
Yeah.
in making sure that I'm authentic through this, and of
Wonderful.
course my wife and family and all those people. I've given Tori a shout out already. No, that doesn't really answer your question. There's no openness guru. There's no authenticity guru. I think you know, if you love what you do and you love the people you're doing it with, then actually, and if you trust yourself to be true to who you are, and if you do, you'll generally be well repaid. It's the best person to trust, because you can't really trust other people. You can really trust yourself.
Wonderful. 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 Thank you. Thank you. By the way, there is no right answer to that. The only right answer is the one you've just given. So thank you. So if we could just take a reflection back and just imagine your younger self, Tony, when you were earlier on in life, what do you now know that you wish you knew maybe when you're 21 or 25? I'm glad I never answered this question, because the list would be this big. I'm really pleased I get to ask this question.
Yeah. So when I was in school, I kind of had this sense I wanted to be in business. My father was working in the city. I said I was never going to work in the city. I vowed I would never go into merchant banking. But I was going to set up a business, and I was going to be an entrepreneur, and I studied accordingly. Then, you know, having set up in my first company in my 20s, and kind of ironically set up an office as I am now, about 500 meters from where my dad worked. There's a real irony there. I'm fighting to get away from my father, and I'm based 500 yards away.
500 yards. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think the thing I wish I'd known, which I didn't learn until I was in my 50s, is the importance of understanding what you're uniquely able to do and then doing it. So what's your unique ability? What's the one thing that when you strip it all away, that you are better than anybody else at doing, that you're uniquely good at doing? And I think for me, you know, I've set out to make, you know, my purpose is about making other people's relationships and lives better through their relationships with me. And ironically, I did a little bit of coaching on my way through, and I love doing that too. And my thing here is being able to inspire people to understand how to work well together. I'm kind of good at that stuff, and I'm a leader through support rather than direction. That's another important component. But the big one is understand what you're brilliantly good at doing. And I know all the people listening will be going, yeah, Tony, that's a cliche. How do I do that? I'm 30. I've been doing this job for 7 years, and I'm good at some of it. I'm not good at other bits. Do the bits you're good at. The bits you're not good at, that you don't wake up in the morning going, you know what, I really want to do this. Get rid of that. Either find a job that doesn't include it, or delegate it. And the wonderful thing, one of the best decisions I made was employing my current CEO, who has been life-changing for me. He joined me 2.5 years ago. He's an absolutely superb CEO. I was never a very good one, honestly. I'm a good spokesperson for the industry. I'm good at inspiring people, but I'm not a very good manager of businesses. He's superb. He does this better than anybody else I know, and he's lovable and likable and admirable and all the things you want. All the things you want in a quality of a person. But he's very, very good. Now that's what he's in exactly the right job. And it was realizing that actually I wasn't in exactly the right job when I was being the CEO that allowed me to be freed up when we were ready to find somebody to do that. So if I was my younger self, I'd say sooner find out what I'm really, really good at and just do that.
So that's Ben, yeah?
Yeah, he's Ben. Yeah, Ben Agnew. He's the CEO. Super guy.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of meeting him only recently at the Christmas party, and it was quite clear he absolutely loves. I'm a bit of a career geek. I'm always interviewing people. I can't help it, and it was pretty obvious he loves what he's doing. So that's that's very clear.
And ironically, we've got 35 people. We've got 200 members. We've doubled in size in revenue terms in the last 2 years. So the business is going at a hell of a pace. And I reckon he thinks he's just started. He's just started.
Yep. Sorry, and that's exactly the impression. Well, it's exactly what he told me.
Oh, really?
It wasn't just the impression I was left with. That's exactly how he feels.
I was just the warm-up act, Adrian.
I definitely know how that feels. I know how that feels.
Oh, dear.
Look, Tony, this is the stage where I sort of try and get about 2 or 3 sort of pearls of wisdom here for the audience. But I've got pages of notes here, so I'm just going to try and summarize and thank you so much for being so generous with things. Which is, I think there's been one running theme though for me, which I will share. And I think that is the fact that you discovered whom you are, what your skills are, and how to show up. Whether that was being a community geek and recognize that quite early on in your career, and also recognizing that we're stronger if we're together. And also realizing actually what the Payments Association and your job and the 35 people who work for you is to be the context maker of the industry, not but also having customers at the very center of your industry. You almost can't get it wrong, because they're saying this is what our needs are. That it's not about polls and questionnaires and social listening. It's like no, we are telling you exactly what we need and actually doing that as well. I think some of the pieces that you said there about the payments industry and about programmable money, and that could have a significant impact, not just on the credibility and reputation for governments, but actually holding others to account. I loved your honesty about the recognition of why this industry lives and breathes off trust. However, there's a cost to lack of trust, and what could we do with that on many fronts. But I knew your passion was going to come through about the hotbed of opportunity because of the complexity of the industry, and for smart enterprising people, there's a clear opportunity for young people to join the industry. I suppose the big one for me, and this is probably what I was most keen on today, was about the relationships and how you build them, because you almost seem to do that effortlessly when I've watched you and observed you. And a couple of observations there, and I think it's my quote from today more than anything else, which is collaboration is not a project, it is a lifestyle. And for me, that's the definition between being task orientated only or only people orientated. We need to get tasks done via people, and if you view it as a project, you'll treat those people as a task. If you view it as an ongoing piece, then some pretty amazing magic can happen. I think the other one for me is just to remember, you're absolutely right. A lot of us are trying to self-actualize in many parts of the world. Humanity has never had this amount of wealth, never had this amount of resources, and it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget that. That's not unacknowledging the problems that there are existing in the world. But I think the other piece then about showing up as yourself and actually trusting yourself, I think recognizing that you do need to do the difficult work, understand what you are good at and what you're not good at. I was hearing there that is a personal choice. You do need to take ownership of that as opposed to inherit a job from somebody, but also then recognize that, but then do something with it. Don't just recognize it and say that would be a nice. Don't make it a New Year's resolution. Do with it. So they were my takeaways, Tony.
Well, I think that's really succinct and clear. Succinct and clear encapsulation of what I said. That's really nice. Next time, just get me to read that bit out, and then we can forget all the rest.
Here we go. And the 30 seconds from Tony is here we go.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you very much. That's really clever. Really nicely done.
Well, I thank you so much I've learned so much today. Thank you. And I know the audience will really appreciate this. And look, I look forward to seeing you face to face again. It'd be great to get you back on the show.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Adrian. All the best.
Take care.
Bye.